Yes, guys, every single year it seems as though fantasy football manages to shock us all. Last year we had Baker Mayfield, best season of his career, top 5 quarterback, 4,500 pass yards, nobody saw that coming. Travis Etienne the year before, a top 3 running back in all formats, nobody saw that coming. And the same year in 2023, Puka Nacua, best rookie wide receiver season of all time. So I am giving you my bold predictions for the 2025 fantasy football, and I guess the NFL season as well. Now, let's just hop right into the first one. We also had Thursday night football action last night. I have some thoughts. I have some reactions. Some of them have to do with some bold predictions we will talk about today. So I'm going to save those thoughts for later in the video. The first bold prediction here, my guy, Trey McBride. I believe he scores 300 plus PPR points. And I should just specify, these are bold predictions. They are unlikely. How should I say this? Things that are unlikely but wouldn't surprise me if they happened. Doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, but that's what we're talking about today. So, Trey McBride, 300 plus PPR points. Very realistic. He was, last year, tight end 104 in fantasy points over expected. Tight end 104, guys. Outside of the top 100 tight ends in fantasy points over expected, and still scored 250 total fantasy points here in PPR. When you look at the recent 300 plus point seasons in PPR for tight ends, there's 3 really that are relevant to us here. The most recent 3. 2011, you had Gronk do it. 2020, Kelsey. And 2021, Andrews. McBride is going to do this the Andrews route, okay? Andrews, of those 3, had the least amount of touchdowns. He had 9 compared to Gronk and Kelsey, 17 and 11 respectively. But he had the most catches and the most targets. McBride is already at this 110 plus reception mark, okay? 154 targets for McBride. Honestly, light work if last year kind of repeats itself, but the average for tight ends, okay, the top 10 tight ends last year, if you exclude McBride, even if you keep him in there, if you exclude him, it was like 6.7 touchdowns over the entire season. If you exclude him, it's like 6.2. So if McBride scores 5 touchdowns, which is below average still for the top 10 tight ends in fantasy, he flirts with 300 points very easily, honestly. When we look at his ranks last year, second in targets, second in receptions, second in receiving yards, second in air yards, second in PPR points total, third in PPR points per game, first in expected points per game, but 104th among tight ends in expected points, fantasy points over expected. These stats are courtesy of RotoViz, guys. You already know that's where I get all my advanced stats. The best in the business, okay? Moving on to the next bold prediction here. I have Jahmyr Gibbs scoring the most total running back PPR points and repeating as RB1 overall. A lot of people don't realize how difficult it is to repeat as the RB1 overall. McCaffrey's never done it. Okay. Todd Gurley's never done it. Austin Eckler never did it. Those couple years of greatness he had. Kamara's never done it. Okay. And what I mean by this is weeks 1 through 18, every single possible game, and all of the points, total points for the regular season. And yes, if you sit out week 18, it factors into this, okay? Now, last year, weeks 1 through 18, Gibbs had more total PPR points than Barkley. He was RB1, Barkley was RB2. A lot of that is from Gibbs' 40-point explosion in week 18, and I don't even know if Barkley played. With that being said, that is the stat we're talking about here, okay? Gibbs led all running backs, guys, in fantasy points per touch last year. All running backs, okay? His 1.2 PPR fantasy points per touch last year, when you compare them to the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, when you compare Gibbs's 1.2 PPR fantasy points per touch to the last 6, and that's just a random number. I just started looking back, made it 6 years. The last 6 RB1 overall finishers, CMC, Eckler, Taylor, Kamara, CMC again, and Barkley in 2018. That 1.2 fantasy points per touch is higher than every single one of them besides Kamara in 1.4, and that's because it was simply just reception based. So we don't realize just how good Gibbs was last year. Barkley stole a lot of that spotlight in terms of the best RB. Weeks 1 through 17, half PPR, points per game, whatever, sure. But in terms of total PPR points, Gibbs last year was amazing, and the fantasy points per touch confirms it, okay? We'll head back to this prediction here. Now, it has been 20 plus years since the last repeat, since the days of Marshall Faulk and Priest Holmes. Those are the guys who have done it in the early 2000s. They are the last two to repeat PPR total points. LaDainian Tomlinson's never done it, okay? In 2025, this Lions offense is going to run through Jahmyr Gibbs. The new OC, Morton, is saying that this is a Jahmyr Gibbs offense. He is declining to comment on the split between Monty and Gibbs. I happen to believe that means Gibbs is going to get more work, which means more receptions. They open this week at Green Bay as underdogs. With the recent Christian McCaffrey news of the injury, Gibbs is now my RB1 for the week. Okay. Number 3 is that Garrett Wilson is going to finish a top 6 wide receiver, and this is going to make a lot of people upset. Don't care. It's kind of like the Trey McBride case for this year as well. So we look at per game, okay, expected fantasy points versus fantasy points over expected. So what that means is based on your usage, your targets, your snaps, your routes, where you ran them, where you were targeted on the field, all those things, RotoViz puts all those things, okay, all that data into their little magic machine, and it spits out expected fantasy points. That's a very good metric to tell where we should be ranking players as the season goes on. But then when we look back, we can look at how they did relative to that mark. Okay, so for example, per game, last year, Garrett Wilson was wide receiver 9 in expected fantasy points. It's where he should have finished. Fantasy points over expected, he was wide receiver 169. 2023, wide receiver 7 in expected points. Wide receiver 237 in fantasy points over expected. In 2022, wide receiver 13 in expected points. All those are very good. Wide receiver 240 in fantasy points over expected. A lot of people forget, too, that before Devontae Adams came to town last year, Wilson was ho-humming along, top 8 wide receiver. Okay, and then the Rodgers-Adams show just occurred, and it was just honestly pretty annoying. Now, the new offensive coordinator for the Jets, Tanner Eggstrand, is trying to implement a run-first offense. That's awesome. Nobody cares, okay? Because when Garrett Wilson is the only pass catcher available, when they pass the ball, it's probably going to go to him, all right? A 30% target share will not surprise me. And when the Jets are losing games because they're the Jets, we're not going to run the ball 25 times with Braylon Allen when we're down 14 points. It's a nice idea. I just don't know if it's going to actually happen. Tanner Eggstrand was big in boosting the expected fantasy points for Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams in Detroit. He is putting Garrett Wilson in motion, giving Garrett Wilson screens, getting him the ball in space, according to the preseason reports. So I think there's a lot of recency bias here on Garrett Wilson. I'm seeing him fall into the late 4th rounds, sometimes the 5th round in drafts. It's too late for me. It's simply too late. Okay. Moving along, right? Kind of keeping it on this Detroit vibes, if you will. I'm actually going to pull up someone on the screen right now by the name of Jamal Williams, and we're going to look at his 2022 campaign here, in which he scored 17 rushing touchdowns. 17 rushing touchdowns, finished half PPR, RB8. Now, the reason I bring that up is because my bold prediction is that Kyle Monangai, the Bears running back, will score 12-plus rushing touchdowns this season. As of the practice report yesterday, Thursday, September 4th, Monangai is limited in practice, which is trending upwards. He's trending towards playing Monday. Roschon Johnson is still out of practice with an injury. He has been out for weeks, if not months. Okay? Did not play in the preseason. Monangai played the first game, then was out, but he's back now. Ben Johnson, when he had DeAndre Swift in Detroit, was famous for not using him in a workhorse role. Like 50% of snaps, if that. You guys all remember how frustrating it was. DeAndre Swift in 2022, I believe it was this borderline first rounder, if not first rounder, and we know the rest, okay? In 2024, last year, Ben Johnson offense, 35 plus running back opportunities per game. 35 plus, guys, between Monty and Gibbs. I'm not saying Kyle Monangai is as good as Monty. He might be, okay? I'm not saying Swift is as good as Gibbs. He isn't. But Roschon Johnson right now is the only competition for Monangai to have the RB2 role in Chicago, and he is injured, okay? It is literally Swift, Monangai, and Johnson on the depth chart here for the Bears. Swift is not taking 35 plus opportunities a game, or 30, or 25. 20? Sure. I can see Swift getting that. So if Monangai creeps into 10 opportunities per game, 3 or 4 of them around the goal line, he's going to have fantasy football value. And it's reminding me a lot of 2022 Jamal Williams for the Lions. Okay. We move along to the QB position, and we're going to talk about Trevor Lawrence. I'm going to pull up Baker Mayfield from last year. We're going to look at his career log for fantasy, okay? So 2024 was his best season easily. Before 2024, he only had 1 year over 4,000 yards. It was in 2023, okay? QB 10 finish. Before that, guys, disappointing is honestly an understatement. Never cracked the top 15 for fantasy football QBs. First overall pick. Okay, this is 4th team. So the first 5 years of the career before Tampa Bay were interesting for sure. Never really even touched 4,000 yards or thought about it in 2023. Just made it over 4,000 yards. And last year, guys, with Liam Cohen, with 2, maybe 3 very good pass catching options, dare I say elite, 2 very good / good running backs, capable running backs. Okay? And again, Liam Cohen. Last year, QB4, 4,500 passing yards. So my bold prediction this year is that Trevor Lawrence will pass for 4,500 passing yards with Liam Cohen. 2 very good, if not elite, wide receivers. Yes, I'm including Travis Hunter in that, okay? 2 very good / good running backs, and we'll bring it all the way back to Liam Cohen. It's low-hanging fruit, but it's true. When you look at the signs, Trevor Lawrence, the last 2 seasons, 2022 and 2023, his last 2 healthy seasons, I should say, over 4,000 yards in both of them. Struggled his rookie season, then in 2022, QB 8, 2023, QB 13 for fantasy. These are better signs than Baker. Lawrence might even approach 5,000 yards, guys, in this offense. Okay, so that is my prediction. Trevor Lawrence is going to finish as a QB1 this year. He's already finishing in that range in way worse situations. Okay, elite offensive weapons, elite offensive mind telling him what to do. And starts the season versus the Panthers. What more do you want? Next up, Emeka Egbuka scores the most total fantasy points among Bucs wide receivers. So Chris Godwin is unlikely to play in week 1. He's coming off the PUP. Mike Evans is 32 years old. I will save you the TED Talk and just say the history for 32-year-old wide receivers is not awesome in the league. That's all I'm going to say. And Jalen McMillan is on the IR. This isn't even a route of like, oh, Mike Evans gets injured. Now Egbuka is scoring the most. If Mike Evans plays 17, Egbuka could still outscore him. Okay? Just like Godwin could have outscored Evans in years past when both play 17 games. 19th overall pick, first round pick, Egbuka, dominating preseason. Arguably the best Ohio State wide receiver ever. He has the most receiving yards, record holder, and the most catches, record holder, okay? In that same vein as Marvin Harrison for those 2+ elite seasons at the university. So there's no reason that Egbuka cannot lead this team in receiving in total fantasy points. And then you start to factor in the risk of, Evans is 32. Okay, Godwin isn't healthy, and it's week 1, and Jalen McMillan's going to miss half the season. Those are my thoughts there. We do have a couple rapid-fire bold predictions, guys. The first one kind of going back to the Liam Cohen offense. These first 2 will be for RBs, but Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne, I think they can both finish top 20 running backs. Rashad White and Bucky Irving were top 12 in fantasy points per touch last year in Liam Cohen's offense. Why can't Bigsby and ETN do the exact same thing? Next up, and this is where we'll start to discuss my takeaways from last night, the first game of the season. Cowboys at Eagles. Javonte Williams will be the starter all year. That is my bold prediction. For some reason, that is a bold prediction. Okay? I know there's a saying that it goes like, this is not the saying, but it's like, oh, it walks like a dog, it barks like a dog, it's a dog, right? Like, whatever that saying is. It looks like a lead RB. It gets lead RB volume, and we're told it's the lead RB. Javonte Williams is the lead RB for the Cowboys. So everyone who is obsessed with Jaden Blue, and don't get me wrong, Jaden Blue is a nice stash. He's a nice stash. Javonte has his risk. I'm not just vaulting Javonte into top 10 territory here. But all season, all preseason long, nah, Javonte can't do it. It's Jaden Blue. Boys, they're telling us Javonte is the lead back. So the dynasty bias, there's this dynasty bias that exists. And I'm not throwing shade. Honestly, I'm not. I really am not. I get it. But you have to understand, like, when we're drafting teams and week 1 rolls around, and week 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, like, why was Javonte going in the 10th round, the 11th round? Every single video on this channel for the last 3 months, we've talked about Javonte. Every mock draft, round 10, okay, yeah, Javonte, nice. I have a nice RB3. And no, I didn't start him this week. I ranked him RB26. I didn't draft him to start him. All right? My point is there's this dynasty bias of like February, March, April, and the calendar year when there's nothing to talk about. And we just start hyping up these rookies because there's nothing to talk about. Jaden Blue was an example of that. And yes, he looked good in the preseason camp, right? Like in practice. He didn't do too much in the preseason games. He scored that touchdown in the third, fourth quarter, whatever it was. But Javonte didn't play a single preseason snap. Neither did Dak. CD comes out last night, 70% of the snaps, goal line work, 2 touchdowns, 20 fantasy points in week 1. 18 plus opportunities, guys. You know, 83% of running backs who hit that mark last year, top 12 at the position. There's no reason Javonte can't finish top 12. There's no reason, especially with Miles Sanders fumbling. And it just amazes me. Jaden Blue, healthy scratch. Javonte, 18 plus opportunities, 70% of the snaps. And we're still talking about how it's Jaden Blue's backfield. No, it's not. It's not. Here's how it becomes Jaden Blue's backfield. Jaden Blue gets promoted over Sanders because Sanders fumbled and is awful. He looked terrible. And I'm not saying Javonte looked like prime LaDainian Tomlinson, but he looked capable. Blue gets promoted over Sanders. And then over the course of multiple weeks, like 8 weeks, Blue eventually forces a 50-50 split with Javonte. Okay. And we have a Monty Gibbs situation where Blue is relevant. That is literally the path for Blue without injuries, in my opinion. Okay. The Javonte rant is done. I had to do that. Was clowned all offseason for that. And there might be another rant incoming here as we move to the wide receivers. Cortland Sutton, 1,200 plus receiving yards. You guys knew this was coming. My guy. He's finishing as a wide receiver 1. Okay. Next one, slight rant incoming, just a heads up. Devonta Smith outscores in total fantasy points A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown is the worst pick in round 2 of fantasy football drafts for 2 years in a row now. For 2 years in a row now, 700 plus days. Everyone has cooked me for putting A.J. Brown, wide receiver 20, wide receiver 21. He has finished a top 12 wide receiver in 3 of the last 11 games he's played. 11 games. I don't want to hear about, oh, well, they're going to pass more. No, they're not. Jalen Hurts' depth of pass last night, go look at the chart. Go look at the chart. All within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. Literally all of them besides that one play to Dotson, maybe a couple others. It's a Hurts dump-off offense, or it's a Hurts running offense, or it's a Barkley running offense, or that's what it is. And yes, we're going to hear about it in the media, how pissed off A.J. Brown is, and we're going to come out in week 2 and feed him 10 targets. I believe that. Okay, but on the normal NFL week, Why are we ranking A.J. Brown? Why are we ranking A.J. Brown in the top 15, top 10, top 5 wide receivers? What is the cult following with A.J. Brown? He is not at best. He is on any given week either the number 1 option in the offense for scoring or the number 4. Barkley, Hurts, Smith. Those 3 players in AJB. Order them any way you want, honestly. And last night just reinforces that he has this floor, this awful floor of honestly 0 points. Because this has happened before where he's like just weirdly not involved at all. He has this floor that a lot of other top 12, top 15, top 20 wide receivers, simply don't have, this 0 point floor. He should have been drafted closer, to Tyreek Hill than Brian Thomas Jr. That's my point. But there's this cult following who just love A.J. Brown because his advanced stats and advanced metrics on a per route basis are elite and this and that. That's awesome. Do you want to know what the number 1 most telling metric for projecting fantasy points is? Fantasy points. Because fantasy points is up here, and under the fantasy points umbrella, you have all of these nice, wonderful advanced metrics, and those are great. I've said this many times. Again, not throwing shade. I've said this many times. You will not find all of those advanced metrics on this channel. There is a type of audience who loves those, a type of fantasy football player who loves those. Both are successful. On this channel, this is no expert fantasy football. That's what this is, We look at fantasy points. By we, I mean me. We look at fantasy points. Why those points were scored, why more weren't scored, things like that, trends, value. And it was just very obvious that AJB should not be going 15th overall, 18th overall. And then when you go and rank him there, as wide receiver 23, here they come. But anyway, QB, Caleb Williams, 4,000 plus pass yards. It's not that bold. I think his it's definitely more than what he's expected. I think his rushing and passing line is 4,000 for this year. So I think he's the first Bears QB to do it. And Tyler Warren finishes a top 3 tight end. Bowers, McBride, Warren in order. And again, guys, credit to RotoViz for the advanced stats and the data and the charts. A lot of the times in these threads and these videos, I'm using RotoViz. I will always credit them. Not a big subscription guy myself. I try to stay pretty lean with my monthly expenses or yearly expenses that I don't keep track of. RotoViz, when I see it come around every August and charge me that yearly price, I'm like, thank you. I've used that 300 times this year. But anyway, that's going to do it, guys, for the bold predictions. Couple rants in there. Bit of a longer video. Thank you for standing by and letting me vent a little bit. Good luck this week, guys. Join the Discord down below. I answer every single question. You can discuss your team, starts, sits, lineup optimizations, any single thing you want. Peace. Good luck.